Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're joining us this evening on Zoom. You're also, I believe, joining us on Facebook. Is that correct, Hank?
Just 1 second.
You will be shortly. And while Hank is doing that, we will also be on TV6. So there are 3 wonderful ways that you can join in this evening to watch the work of your town council. As customary with all of our meetings, we'll begin this evening with an invocation by Bo Houth, and that'll be followed by our roll call. Mr. Houth.
Pray. All right, thank you. Let's pray. God, our Father, we give you thanks for this day, this beautiful day that you've given to us. And in the midst of this beautiful day, we do realize the difficult times in which we find ourselves, the difficult times of COVID that we're trying to learn how to live with, and in the very difficult times involving the civil rights issues that plague us right now. Help us, Lord, to remember how to love one another, to deal with one another in kindness and in love. We thank you for this town. We thank you for all that you give to us in terms of the town. It's pastoral character. It's wonderful people, and we thank you for among those people the staff that serves the town so well and so ably. We thank you for the elected body that handles matters on behalf of the citizens whom we all work for. So during the course of this meeting, we ask you to give the council wisdom and courage to do the things that need to be done. And then when this meeting is done, help us all to continue in our lives of love for one another and caring. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Bo. Our roll call this evening, Mr. Smitherman.
Present.
Ms. Foster.
Evening.
Ms. Hunt.
Happy Thursday.
Ms. Welch.
Good evening.
Mr. Franklin.
I'm here.
And Mike Horn, the mayor's here. Thank you very much. That's everybody's present and accounted for.
Ken
Ken.
is waiting as an attendee, Hank.
Who is?
Oh, Ken.
Oh,
Ken.
he just got here. He was
Yeah,
not
he did.
here a few minutes ago.
Okay, we'll wait a moment and let's bring Ken in.
Here he comes.
Hey.
I was beginning to think you didn't like me.
In the nick of time.
Never.
And Dr. Sadler.
Yeah, I've been sitting here.
Ms. Walker, has there been any changes or additions to our agenda since you sent it out?
Guess what? We actually have something new that was added like a half an hour ago. I did place it. I placed it in Dropbox, and I'd like to add it to 11K new business, and I'll throw it over to Hank to talk about why we're adding that in.
Okay, Hank, you just want to give us a quick primer. We'll spend more time on it when we get there.
Sure. Air condition went down at the annex either yesterday or today. So time is of the essence to get it repaired.
Very good. Any other additions or revisions?
Mike, I have one.
Yes, Ms. Foster.
I would ask you all to consider removing item 5 under our consent agenda, which is the approval of the meeting minutes from the May 14th, and move that to our meeting on Monday night. I talked with Joyce about some materials that were missing, and I've given her part of that information, but we can complete that tomorrow and get it to you for Monday if that's acceptable to the crew.
Very good. As is every council member's prerogative, we generally take the consent agenda all at one time for convenience. However, any council member can request an item be removed and considered at a later date. Ms. Foster, if there are no objections by other council members, we will remove item 2A5 and move it over to Monday's agenda, and so we can have a chance to look at your revisions in the minutes.
Thank you.
Without objection? We're good. Okay. With our changes, council members will entertain a motion to approve. Dr. Sadler makes the motion. Mr. Franklin makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Nope.
I got to do it again. I know.
There we go.
I'm going to get it. Ms. Foster,
Yeah, aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
I agree.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Dr. Stadler,
Aye.
Mayor's an aye. That's unanimous. Hank, our consent agenda, please.
Okay, this evening's consent agenda consists of 4 items now. Actually, 5 items, or 6. The first is Resolution 2020037 for the acceptance approval of monthly financials for the 10 months ending April 30, 2020. Next is the approval of council briefing and action minutes from May 7th, 2020. Third is the approval of council budget meeting minutes from May 7th, 2020. The approval of council budget meeting minutes from May 11th, 2020. And lastly, consideration of resolution 2020039, accepting the resignation of John McPherson from the Triad Municipal ABC Board.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Orell, do we have any surprises in our monthly financials?
No surprises. Everything is going well.
Very good. Thank you. With that, we'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Ms. Welch makes the motion.
Second.
Ms. Foster makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Nope.
No. Call.
Put a star, do the roll call. Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler. Ken, have you frozen up on us?
Unmute.
It's mute.
Unmute yourself, Ken.
Yeah, I was muted, sorry. Aye.
Very good. And the mayor's aye, that's unanimous. We have introductions, presentations, and recognitions this evening. This is interesting. We'll go through the process and hopefully we'll all get used to it. But we have 4 opportunities this evening for you to share your comments with the council. First one coming up in a few minutes is a public forum. We will then have 2 public hearings. One public hearing will be on our budget, and the second public hearing will be on the approval of Longwood Village rezoning. If you're here, if you're attending or wish to speak on either one of those, please hold your comments until those public hearings. And then finally, of course, the opportunity to share your thoughts with the council. At this time, do we have anybody waiting, Hank?
We have 5 people in attendance.
Very good. Of those in attendance, does anybody wish to speak in the general public forum? This is not for the public hearings, but the general public forum.
If so, signify by raising your hand.
And we have no takers.
Okay.
We're good, Hank?
Yes, no raised hands.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We come to our first public hearing of this evening, and this is our 2020-21 budget. Hank, you want to walk us through it, please?
Yes, let me grab something, move it around. Bear with me 1 second. I've misplaced something. There it is. Okay. I'm going to read some highlights out of my budget message from the time I presented the budget. These are reflective of any changes that went in during council deliberation. The proposed budget for the general fund is $4,751,485. This is an increase of 2.04% over the prior year's budget as adopted in July 1st, 2019. The budget is as proposed, includes maintaining the current tax rate of 17.7 cents per $100 evaluation. The budget is balanced with $230,510 in fund balance from the general fund. The town of Louisville also collects a levy for a municipal service district. The budget as proposed includes maintaining the current tax rate of 5 cents per $100 evaluation. And according to the Forsyth County tax appraisers, the total tax value of the town of Louisville for the upcoming fiscal year is estimated at $1,426,177,776. And this produces an estimated ad valorem tax revenue of $2,448,605. Budgeting for economic uncertainty in our municipal revenues brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic and the increase in our service costs has been a challenge. However, the town of Louisville stays committed to the continuation of all of its existing services for the upcoming fiscal year, including parks and recreation, finance, administration, planning and zoning, public works, residential garbage and recycling, stormwater management, community policing, and beautification. All services are proposed to continue at current service delivery levels for the upcoming fiscal year. The town has 4 capital reserve funds. Currently, annual appropriations to all of these funds total $405,000 per year. At the town council capital planning session held on February 1st, the council reaffirmed its desire to proactively support and develop the development of the downtown area and road and sidewalk improvements throughout the town, as well as the desire to develop future capital facilities such as the new community center. During fiscal year 2017-2018, the town council learned that the North Carolina Department of Transportation plans to assume financial responsibility for the remaining work to be done on the Great Wagon Road, to include design, right-of-way, and acquisition and construction. As construction on the Great Wagon Road progresses, we anticipate the town of Louisville will participate financially with the North Carolina Department of Transportation for enhancements such as sidewalks, trees, and streetlights, as well as the design and installation of water and sewer infrastructure. As mentioned earlier, budgeting in the 2020-2021 fiscal year has been made more difficult with uncertain revenue levels, and rising service costs. As such, the budget is proposed to suspend its annual contribution to the GWR right-of-way construction capital reserve fund of $115,000. Doing so will allow the town to maintain its current service levels in the new fiscal year in light of uncertain revenue estimates. The budget as proposed also reduces the annual contribution to the Stormwater Capital Reserve Fund from $95,000 to $25,825. This amount allows the reserve to reach its desired goal of $560,000. Transfer to the Municipal Buildings Land Capital Reserve is proposed to remain unchanged at $170,000. Transfer to the Sidewalks, Bike Paths, and Greenways Capital Reserve is proposed to remain unchanged at $25,000. Thus, proposed funding in this budget for all capital reserves is $220,825. The town will continue design work for the Gateway project along the right-of-way and construction work in the coming fiscal year. The town will continue design work, right-of-way, and construction of a BMP, or Best Management Practice, wet pond for stormwater treatment in the downtown area of the town of Louisville. The pond will be located just southwest of the intersection of Shallowford Road and Heritage Drive. The town has been awarded for the construction of a single-lane roundabout at Robin Hood Road and Louisville Vienna Road. And finally, the town is working with an architect firm on the design of the new community center. The town plans to begin construction on the new community center in the upcoming fiscal year. That concludes my staff remarks about the upcoming fiscal year budget.
Thank you, Hank. Ladies and gentlemen, your council has been meeting a number of times over the last few weeks to really dissect what's in this budget, what it means to the residents of Louisville, how it advances the goals of our comprehensive plan, and how it ensures the things that we feel are important to maintain the community of Louisville like it is are included in our deliberations in the upcoming budget year. Council members, any discussion or any questions for Hank, first of all, before we have our public hearing?
Question.
Ms. Foster.
Hank, you said what you just read was an updated budget message.
Yes, it's taking excerpts out of the budget message as read when I presented it, with any modifications that were made during the process.
Okay, so then what you said, is there a new budget message that we should have to substitute out what we received in our actual budget packet?
When you see the budget and it's produced, there will be both the old budget message and the budget message that is modified to reflect the changes in the budget that came about through deliberation of the council.
And it includes what you just read.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Hank? Dr. Sadler?
Yes, Mr. Sadler.
Has the budget been available to town residents on a continuous basis ever since we began our deliberations with regard to the budget?
It certainly has been under deliberations after presentation and placement with the town clerk. I'm not sure exactly when the date was for that. And I
Sure.
believe it has been available while we have been deliberating it.
Okay.
It was on,
Yeah.
Pam, do you want to answer that too? I think you had it placed online.
Yes, the proposed budget has been posted on the town's website ever since it was presented in April.
Any updates or modifications that were made to it during the deliberations, did they also appear there?
No, I do not believe so.
Actually, no changes were made to the budget
Okay.
during deliberations.
Mr. Franklin?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I always ask this question every year. Has anybody picked up the same bound paper copies that are laid out in the vestibule there at Town Hall for access? And each year, the answer is no.
That's correct.
Not just this year, but each year, so I'm glad that it was put online. Thank you for doing that, staff. And, that gives more people the opportunity to access it.
Very good. In addition, it was also, I put it up on my mayor's Facebook page, and I believe it was picked up on the town's Facebook page, a link to the manager's message, as well as the entire budget for anybody that wanted to go through line by line. So it has been out there with ample access in a number of forms. But thank you, Mr. Franklin, for that observation. Any other questions for Hank before we have the public hearing?
So Mayor, I would just make a comment, an additional comment. So since the budget was posted online and since we've done our deliberations and since there've been no changes, anyone who has reviewed the budget has reviewed what we have arrived at now.
That's correct.
Very good. Any other questions? With that, we'll open the public hearing on our 2020-21 budget. Those of you waiting to speak and you want to speak on the budget, this is your opportunity. If you will press your raise hand button, town manager will bring you in. Anybody wish to speak? Anybody wish to speak? Hank, no raised hands?
No, sir.
Very good. With that, we'll close the public hearing. Council discussion? Any relevant points that you would like to bring out in this budget?
Not that, but where do we proceed now? Because we can't approve it tonight.
We do go ahead and what we'll do, Fred, is we have a special meeting set for Monday. And that will be a 6 o'clock meeting, and it's Monday, June 15th. And at that point, we will vote on the budget. But we'll have a 24-hour period from this point when residents can submit their, I was just getting to that, residents will submit their comments. If you have a written comment that you'd like to submit, send it to town clerk at louisvillenc.net. It's town clerk at louisvillenc.net. And please do that over the next 24 hours. This is an accommodation that we make because not often occasionally some folks will not be able to access us through or feel comfortable through a internet. So you can send us an email. Again, that's town clerk at louisvillenc.net. We will convene on Monday at 6 o'clock to take the official vote. Any other council comments? Okay, very good. Do we need to pass that ordinance, or have we already established that date, Mrs. Walker?
We've already established the date, and I've sent the information out, and it's already posted on the website.
Very good, thank you. Our second public hearing tonight is on Longwood Village. And Stacy, will you give us a refresher, please?
Sorry, I was muted. Let me try that again. In the attendees, Hank, Allied Design is waiting. They are applicants or the engineers on the project. If you will promote them to panelists, if you can do that. There we go. Okay, I'm going to share my screen really quick with you and do a short presentation. If it'll let me. All right. I don't know why it's not. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is Longwood Village. The case number is L095. This was a rezoning request. It's been kind of drawn out. The planning board first heard this and had a public hearing at their March, I believe it was March the 15th, possibly. It was in March, their public hearing meeting in March. It was their last meeting right before the pandemic and everything kind of went to a standstill. But for the record, the properties included are identified as tax pin numbers 5885-70-8928. That is a portion of the property currently owned by the Kaplan's, Kaplan property. And then the other is a residential property next door that is 5885-81-0388. So the request is to rezone the property from highway business to RS20, which is residential single family with a minimum lot size of, a minimum lot, what? Goodness. Okay, a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. The request is to rezone to RS9, which is residential single family zoning district with a minimum lot size of 9,000 square feet. The S that you see on the end of that is because there is a specific site plan that goes along with this rezoning request. I will get to that shortly. So the planning, March 11th, looky there. The planning board heard this case at their regular meeting on March 11th. They voted 4-1 to recommend approval of the rezoning to town council. They did want me to pass along concerns, minimal concerns, but this property has been zoned commercial for 25 plus years. There's not been anything done on the property, so that is why someone is proposing to do a residential subdivision at this time. But that was their concern, just it going from commercial, some of the few commercial properties that we have in town, to a residential district. But they did, in fact, note that, someone is trying to do something with it since nothing's been done with it for quite a while. So you can see on the map in front of you, the yellow hashed area, that is the area of the property request. This large area, that's the Kaplan property, and this small area, that's the residential property that is next door. And then it neighbors the Fountain Brook subdivision. Total, it is about 13.5 acres, 13.57 to be exact. And then it does front Louisville Clemens Road. Here is an additional zoning map, just so you can see that the area right there, I've circled that in with the yellow circle, just so you can tell that's where the subdivision is to go if approved. Again, neighboring the Fountain Brook subdivision, and then everything across here is already zoned RS9. And then to the south is a church that is zoned RS9 as well. That's the Shallowford Presbyterian Church, if anyone is familiar with the area. So the request is a rezoning for a single family residential development with 38 lots. The site has available infrastructure, both water and sewer, to support the density of the development. Statements found in both the Louisville Comprehensive Plan and the Forsyth County Legacy Plan encourages higher density in this area. It's nearby activity centers that with suburban and urban environment along the growth corridor right there with Stires Ferry and Louisville Clemens Road. Forsyth County Legacy Plan also encourages the inclusion of housing at higher residential densities in activity centers and appropriate locations on these growth corridors. And the property is located in Growth Management Area 3, which is the suburban neighborhood area, growth management area. So lastly, you can see here, this is the site plan that is proposed to go along with this rezoning. If the rezoning is approved, this is the development that will be going in there. Again, it is 38 lots. It does have one main entrance, but you'll see since it's over a specific threshold, fire code requires them to have another access. Even if it is just a maintained gravel access, they are meeting that requirement. Sidewalks on both sides. There will be plantings along Louisville Clemens Road to shield or to have a visual buffer between both the road and then the backs of those houses, that those lots back up to Louisville Clemens Road. So town staff is the opinion that the request is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan and legacy for the area and complements the uses of the activity center. The developer has or will need to follow the major subdivision requirements in Chapter D, Section 4 of, those are the major subdivision requirements in our Unified Development Ordinance. And also they will need to include erosion control permits. They'll be required to get those. Stormwater management permits, they will be required to obtain those from the town of Louisville prior to building and zoning permits, and also any and all TRC comments that needed to be remedied, and most of those, they all have been remedied through this site plan. Any other comments that anyone on the technical review committee had. So lastly, just to kind of recap, the site does have available infrastructure to support the density of development that is being proposed. Again, statements found in both the Louisville Comprehensive Plan and the Forsyth County Legacy Plan encourages higher density within a suburban urban environment along growth corridors or in activity centers. Given these findings and other supporting information found in this report, staff recommended approval of the rezoning to the planning board, and the planning board also recommends approval with a 4-to-1 vote to the town council. So I will entertain any questions that anyone has.
Any questions for Stace? Dr. Sadler.
I've got a couple. You said it was about 13.1 or 13.3 acres, and an acre is typically 40,000 square feet. Is that right?
43,560 square feet is in 1 acre.
Okay, and an RS20 is usually thought of as about half that amount?
Yeah, generally.
Okay, so an RS9, is it generally half RS20, or what is that?
Yeah, that's 9,000 square foot lots.
Okay.
So roughly, yeah.
Yeah, about, so what I'm wondering is there a topography issue that keeps this from, because it keeps this from being more than 38 lots?
Well, I do, if you can tell, I can try to go back to that screen. In the back corner, there's a lot of area that is taken up by a proposed stormwater pond.
Oh.
In order for them to treat all the impervious surface and everything. So,
Okay.
So that in itself takes up quite a few of lots that they could have, but they are required to have that because it would be considered high density.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just my rough calculations in my head told me 52 lots. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
You have questions for Stacy?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Fred. Go ahead.
Stacy, do you know whether or not this is going, you spoke of Fountain Brook several times. Is this going to be a gated community also?
No, it is not planned to be a gated community. The applicant and engineer on the job is with us. If we have any questions for them, they're able to speak as well.
Well, the reason I was asking, because there's a difference of entryway while the gate has to be open for delivery trucks and things of that nature versus one that is not gated. And that's the reason I was asking the question, you know.
Yeah. To my knowledge, and Mr. Davis can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not going to be a gated community. And I do believe they will petition the town at a later date to have the roads taken over. Okay, yeah.
Is that going to be a berm along Louisville Clemens Road as the buffer, or what is that going to be like?
Does
You said that there would be a buffer, some plantings as a buffer along Louisville Clemens Road. I'm just wondering if there's a berm, or is that just plantings?
I think it's a combination of both. Let me get my plan out.
And I see
You get an okay from
Allied Design is.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's let the guys from Allied Design talk for a
They're
minute.
trying to
Maybe
unmute
they
us.
answer a lot of questions.
They could,
He's
yeah.
tried several times here.
Again, it's going to be a combination. I don't know exactly the specific plantings that will be there, but.
Okay.
Gentlemen, we'll unmute you right now.
Yeah.
Can you get it
Hank,
unmuted?
do we have to unmute
Oh, I
them,
guess
or
I can
they
do it for
unmute themselves?
Hold on. I asked them to unmute.
There we go.
There we go.
Yep.
Very good.
Did you want us to answer that question?
Yes, if you would, please.
Well, Steve Causey here, Allied Design, 4720 Kester Mill Road, Winston-Salem, 27103. We did prepare the site plan, and of course, Ron Davis is here as well.
Ron Davis, 380H Knollwood, Winston-Salem, 27103. Obviously, we want to have as much privacy as possible, and we got to work with the power line, so we're going to put as much of a berm there as we can, and we are going to greatly exceed the town requirements for plantings there. We're going to supplement that to make it private and for all parties. Noise, yeah.
What are the dimensions of that pond?
Well, I'll go back to one question earlier. I appreciate your question regarding the lot count, and trust me, we would have loved to have had more. In meeting the minimum frontage and the area requirements, and then due to some topography in the back, we maxed out kind of what was practical. But I appreciate you asking that question. Again, the buffer yards required per your thoroughfare buffering requirements. We would like to incorporate a berm, as Ron mentioned, to the benefit of the internal residents. We've got a slope. We actually will transition down from Louisville Clemens Road into the property, probably 6 to 8 to 10 feet. But we hope to find an opportunity to berm along the road as well. And just to verify, the streets as we proposed are public. I think actually to do private, Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, we'd have to request the PRD. And of course, public streets cannot be gated. So the goal would be public streets built in accordance with your standards, and again, dedicated to town for maintenance at some point. Regarding the stormwater pond, I could rough scale some dimensions. I think more in terms of volume, and it's been a while since I looked at it, but it is sized preliminarily, at least, to meet your quality and quantity requirements. We would attenuate the 25-year storm. From memory, and don't hold me to it, is about 8,000 cubic feet. I could rough scale some dimensions, but probably in the neighborhood, maybe 30, 40 feet wide, 60, 80 feet long. But again, we try to economize that as best we can once we get into the more detailed design. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
And one clarification, minor, it may not necessarily be a wet pond. We have a variety of options, bioretention cells, sand filters, some of those devices. So not necessarily a wet pond. Just want to clarify that.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Stacy, or
Any other questions before our public hearing?
I can
Go ahead.
I can either ask questions now or wait until the council discussion, whatever
Well, this is a good time to ask your questions. We'll have council discussion after the public hearing.
Okay. So my question, I don't know, Stacy, is it possible for you to bring up the site plan again and zoom in at all, just for a visual aid? I'll ask a question of Steve while you're checking on that. I have, I'd like you to address, if you would, two areas. One is because you are, the parcel butts up against some existing community. Could you speak to the buffering and the impact on the trees? I know it's pretty forested as it is right now. Could you just speak to that? And then the second question was, could you speak to the sidewalk? And Hank, you might comment on how this ties to the plans for Louisville Clemens Road. So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Ron may contribute more to the trees, but of course, residential against residential does not require a buffer. The two zoning districts, I guess, are considered compatible. So in terms of new plantings or a required buffer per the ordinance, we would not be required to plant trees. There is some vegetation there. I think Ron can speak to that.
Their site is elevated. There's a retaining wall, and you'll see a ditch there or a drainage. That is in place there now. So they have a very dense buffer between the two, sitting on a tall retaining wall. It's difficult to see across those properties as it is now. And then down there on that lower lot, there's heavy trees there that will stay in place. So there's not going to be very much visibility at all between the two communities. If you'll notice around the perimeter, some of the lots are larger and deeper, and that's intentional. The houses, we were trying to get a little more separation between them. In that RS9, you get an additional separation between the homes. So we made the lots a little larger than they are in the neighborhood adjoining us there. So we looked at all of that and tried to be very respectful of what's there.
Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong as well, but I believe that subdivision, even though it is RS20, I believe it was a PRD. I think they, in fact, were required to have some perimeter buffers in their project, perhaps when it came through. So there may be some buffering on their side. That was
important items. Ordinance 2020-022 is the order. What was that?
That was you, Joyce.
No, but I think
You just never know.
mysteries.
Okay.
If
Sorry
you
to interrupt
drive
you guys.
down Louisville Clemens Road, you can see that dense line there, and you cannot see the back of their home. You don't even have to get out. You can see that wall and everything.
Jean Marie, do you still want me to share the screen with the site plan?
I
Yeah.
would like to see it, Stacy, too.
Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Council, any more questions?
I have a question, please, to the gentleman. Have you mentioned a price estimate of these homes?
We can't ask that question.
Oh,
I mean,
well,
we're consistent with the neighborhood next door. Very, 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 very consistent type community with the adjoining neighborhood with a little larger lot.
okay. Thank you. And the other question to Stacy, I don't know if this is the right moment, but you do send out letters and information to the surrounding neighborhoods, correct? And get feedback?
If you in the packet, you should have a letter that within planning, I know that I summarized. I went around and walked and visited, and I visited the retailers up there, and I had pretty much unanimous support. I visited the adjoining neighborhood. I talked with their homeowners association president. The only question she asked me about the community, I told her it was extremely similar, and that she wanted to know about time frame and when it started. And I made myself available, and I have not gotten anything else. I've talked to both churches. They seem to be pleased. There are no opposition. We're going to keep a little space behind one of them where they can continue to have some trails. We didn't take that piece of property in. And then I did talk to the Daltons across the street, and their biggest concern was buffering and tree removal. And I've had several conversations with them, and I think describing the berm might be beneficial for their concerns. But that's the only negative thing that I encountered, and there should be a letter here that goes into detail about all of that.
Thank you.
Yes,
Any
ma'am.
other questions?
I've got one if Bo
Mike, I have a
will allow.
question. So,
Ms. Franklin, go ahead, and Ms. Foster, you're up next. Or Ms. Hunt, you're up
Okay.
next.
All right, if Bo will allow this one, so listen in, Bo. I would like to know, are the houses just going to be slab on grade, or are there going to be space underneath them? Because that changes the whole characteristics of what's being built. That's one question.
You can ask that.
Well, that's what I'm asking our consultants, or not the petitioners.
Did you hear that question, Ron?
I heard it, sure.
Okay.
So you answer that?
Please.
Sure. That's not totally determined because today, believe it or not, people are going to a lot of slab because of the step up. I mean, we anticipate an older, mature population, and that those steps involved in a crawl space, and then the issues with mold and mildew. We're looking at the slab type, and I think you got a lot of that next door as well. But that seems to be a big trend right now because of it's having everything flow better on the main floor, and but that's not been totally finalized. I would anticipate most people are going to that slab, even in the much higher price point. You'd be surprised now that it's much higher. It's going to that. They still up out of the ground, but they're not backfilled within.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. You've answered my question concisely, and you've also given me some insight into what you're looking to do with your project. So good luck.
Ms. Hunt?
so my question is in reference to the gravel. It was mentioned that we needed to have 2 access points. Can you speak a little bit to kind of the aesthetics of that particular area on the gravel entry? And why that wasn't made a second entry, I guess. I mean, I obviously understand probably because it would take up a fair amount of a lot space, but if you can kind of speak to that for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, we in our ordinance, we don't have that requirement, but it is part of fire code that requires anything over a certain number of lots, which this development exceeds that threshold. They require 2 entrances. It doesn't have to be 2 prominent entrances, but it is just asked that there is one that is at least maintained so that it can be utilized in the event that, the other entrance is blocked, so residents can get out a different way. So it will have to go through NCDOT. NCDOT may require an apron at the end of that. I know that's typically normal for NCDOT, but our ordinance technically doesn't require anything. That's just there so that he meets fire code. Does that answer your question, Melissa? Or
it does. It does. Yeah.
Hank, do you want to take a second and address the issue of sidewalk and the proposed improvements to Louisville Clemens Road?
As far as the plans for the DOT?
We need we still need the site plan up.
we do not. Is everybody good? There we go.
Okay, in regards to the North Carolina Department of Transportation, there is a project on the books and approved for adding sidewalks on both sides of Louisville Clemens Road.
Stacy, is our requirement for this development to have sidewalk?
It is. It is in the pedestrian connection overlay. That's part of some of the things that's in the TRC comments that I had mentioned. They would have to do a payment in lieu of, I believe, it's been quite some time. Joyce and Bo, if you can help me on this. The planning board is who approves that waiver. And I do believe that waiver was approved by the planning board when it went through them for public hearing. Since there is already that NCDOT project approved that Hank spoke of, then they don't actually have to build the sidewalk themselves. They would just pay a fee in lieu of an actual sidewalk for the frontage of that property.
Very good. That's kind of what I was getting at, because I know if we had a similar situation over with school where we had a payment in lieu of not putting a sidewalk in that allowed them a waiver on that particular requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So,
excellent. Any more questions?
One point of information, and we're talking about a waiver for the developer to put the sidewalk in or pay the payment in lieu.
Yeah, the planning board, in our pedestrian connections overlay, the planning board is allowed to issue waivers to property owners or developers that is doing a project along a road that requires a sidewalk that's in the Greenway and Pedestrian Plan. And there's different requirements that allows them to kind of meet that waiver. And if they meet it, then the planning board can grant that waiver. So one of the things that they can do to meet the requirements of that waiver is an NCDOT project already planned. So in this instance, since that project is already planned for the sidewalk to be installed by NCDOT, then they were issued the waiver by the planning board. So then the next step is, once they're issued the waiver, then that means they don't have to actually construct the sidewalk. They just have to put up a payment in lieu of how much a sidewalk, just a normal ADA compliant sidewalk would cost along the frontage of their property to be used in that area of town for the town to decide how that money is used.
Okay, so in this case, the waiver granted, they will be making that payment in lieu.
Yes, and then that payment, it can be used towards the 80-20 portion for what the town has to put up when the DOT does come through and do that project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and open up our public hearing on Longwood Village. If you're waiting to speak on Longwood Village, please raise your hand.
Just for everybody's knowledge, raising your hand when we ask you to do that, that is a function of Zoom. I want to be clear on this one. As an attendee, depending on what platform you're using, there will be a button. I think Windows, it's at the bottom of the panelist column or the attendees column. But if you're using an Apple product, it may be at the top of the Zoom window. I just want to make sure that everyone in attendance is aware of the terminology.
Hank, to uncomplicate this, could you just unmute everybody?
I guess I can.
That'll be easy. That way, folks, if you want to speak, please speak, and we'll take you in turn. Please try not to talk over each other. Do you want to call them off by phone number, Hank?
Okay, there's no one that is called by phone. I have names. I have allowed Anello F to speak if they desire.
Do you wish to speak on
Sure.
rezoning for Longwood Village?
I'll say something.
Yeah, please state your name and address, please.
Yeah, Fabio Nello. I'm pretty much in the center of the wall on Fountain Brook, third lot from the gate.
What is the address, please?
725 Fountain Brook Lane. Yep. So the question I have is there any rules and regulations as far as, does anything go? Like, someone can have a dog outside and play music at a certain time, or is this was there any thought put into this on keeping the neighborhood very, the reason I moved into Fountain Brook is because I really enjoy the quietness and, the professionalism and all that. And I just don't want to get any surprises afterwards. It's like, I didn't know, So anything that could be said about this?
Yes, sir. I believe this is a public hearing, so this is your opportunity to state any concerns that you have. And I think at a future point, the planner can get back to you to answer those questions. But this is just your opportunity to state your opinion or your concerns.
Okay. Well, okay. My other concern, well, that is one of my concerns. The other concern is, will there be any blasting at all? Any chances of getting any dynamite? You know, because I'm concerned about being high up with the wall. Could be any shifting or anything like that. Is there any chance of any blasting?
I think maybe this is limited questions. Is there an objection for the for Allied to go ahead and answer those questions?
Well, we've not observed any rock on the site. We haven't completed borings yet, but just from previous experience, I don't know that we have a strong suspicion of rock. So typically, if we do, we're able to excavate with rippers and excavators and things like that. Obviously, blasting is a last resort, and hopefully we don't, but we don't have any anticipation of rock.
And just to clarify for procedural purposes, Mayor, if you're controlling the dialogue, as long as that dialogue all runs through you, I think that's acceptable, as long as we don't have a direct colloquy between any person on staff and anyone participating in the public hearing. They can ask their questions, and then if appropriate, in Mayor, if you want to ask the developer or the planner or anyone else to respond, you can, if you're so inclined.
Very good. Also, I think Mr. Nello's second question was about barking dogs or animals. I believe those are going to be in the covenants of the HOA agreement, and that will be a decision made by the HOA, I suspect. Is that correct? Guys?
Us?
Yes.
Okay, obviously we will have a professionally managed homeowners association, and obviously the neighbors on either side want that as well. Manage that just like they do in his community. I mean, it kind of goes both ways. He was asking about, there's not a lot of grading right there near that wall. It's already pretty close to the grade that it will stay right there. We will not be, and obviously if we damage your property, we're certainly responsible and insured, and we would take care of it ASAP. But we don't want barking dogs or anything unusual. We will have somebody, and obviously the town as well, and we would address that ASAP.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Nello. Any other comments?
No, that would be it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hank?
Okay, I am going to mute Anello F, and I am allowing to talk Ken Craven, if Mr. Craven needs to say anything.
Yeah, I'm here, Ken Craven, and I'm also with my wife, Angela Craven. A couple of things.
Ken, state your address, please.
Absolutely. How are you doing, Mike, by the way?
Doing great, thank you.
Good deal, good deal. For those of us that don't know, Mike and I had previous lives together in advertising. I am at 717 Fountain Brook Lane in Louisville, obviously.
He's right there, yeah.
Great, go ahead.
Sure. Couple of things. Mr. Davis had mentioned he had held up a piece of paper, and I actually have the letter as well that he brought in from March. He was talking about meeting with Linda Brooks, the outgoing HOA board president, and a little bit of this was there was a when I spoke to Linda after the meeting, and she had said that she had actually spoken to Mr. Davis, and part of the conversation was left off. She had actually said she would love to see it left the way it is, but if it can't, then she would obviously like to see a nice neighborhood like he was planning, as would I. When we purchased our home, we purchased it with the understanding that it was RS20 and not RS9. We knew that there was a single family home there behind us. So, I will say that it is a concern to see a large neighborhood go in there. Having said that, I would not want to see an apartment complex or a Speedway gas station or something like that go in. So I do understand where we're at. And, as an alternative, this is not a bad alternative. But also wanted to mention that, Angela's sitting beside of me. And in this document, he spoke of meeting with her because she's the new president, but she's not the new president. She's never met with him. So this document isn't really that close to being totally on the board, on the level or straight up front. But anyway, enough about that. Angela has a question about the gravel drive that's going to be going in.
Okay, yeah, this is Angela Craven. So I have a question. On the initial planning, there was not a gravel driveway there. Based on this new presentation provided by Stacy, there's now that gravel driveway or gravel road. I understand based on what you're saying that it needs to be there as a second entrance for, I guess, emergency vehicles and so forth. I guess my concern here is at this point, you've said it's going to be gravel. What is there going to be written that it's going to stay as a gravel road and not turn into a major driveway into the subdivision? Is that something that, we can be guaranteed that won't happen and it will stay closed off unless it's for an emergency vehicle?
Yes, and in addition to that, how will this gravel drive be? Will it be basically a second entrance to it that is a gravel drive, or will it be some type of semi-blocked entrance that will only be opened up for emergency vehicles, et cetera?
Gentlemen, feel free to answer that. I think that those are pertinent questions.
Yeah. So one, during the process, the rezoning process, we go through a TRC review, technical review committee, and involved with that is the county fire department. They have but I guess part of the fire code that requires a secondary entrance. We were hopeful to stay below that, but through the TRC, based on the number of lots and the property geometry, we had to provide technically what's called an all-weather access road. Gravel is one of our options. It has to support a 70,000-pound vehicle. So gravel is usually the least expensive option, which is what we've shown. It could be, porous pavers or something like that. But as long as we satisfy them and support the fire truck, that's the whole purpose. It's actually located on private property. It's located within an easement, but the property underneath it will be owned by the two lots. It straddles a lot line. So it's technically on two lots. It's not in a right of way. It couldn't be opened up as a public street, but there is an access, an easement over the road. They are gated at sometimes. I can't remember the exact requirement. I think if they are, we have to provide a lock for the fire department, but they can be gated. I don't know that they're required to be gated.
I can elaborate on that some. It's Teresa Wentland, who I've been speaking with recently since it changed, and I was available for a meeting with the board. All this coronavirus has changed all that. I would have come door to door. I had the opportunity to gate. I was respectful of the gate. And then the corona hit, and I didn't think people wanted me doing that. I did talk with her earlier this week. So as far as that, I mean, obviously you want this thing to be attractive. These are nice homes, and that needs to be attractive where it goes between them. It will only be used in the event of a catastrophic situation, because you would have to be totally blocked, which would be very rare, and then it would be open. The fire department will have locks that they use to get in. And I'm looking at different options on how to gate, possibly something that's opaque and what will fit within Louisville's ordinance to make that look nice. Because obviously the resident there on that lot, actually that lot's 15,000 square feet. It's much larger. You'll notice a lot of them are larger. They want that to look nice and attractive as well. The road there, this is going to pretty much eliminate a road ever going there. You'd have to take a house down. There would be changes to the roadway out front. There's some issues of proximity to yours. There's a lot of reasons it would stay as it is and not be changed. But there's some of these in some really nice neighborhoods, and you'd be surprised in Forsyth that but we're going for a really nice look and very well maintained.
And,
So-
and Mayor, any
and-
change would require a site plan amendment that would have to go through the same process again.
Very good.
I guess what Angela was asking, I think I'm speaking for her as well as myself. So this will not actually be a semi-secondary entrance to this. It's not even going to look like an access road. It's just going to be an available access road. And I know I'm semantics here, but hopefully I'm making sense with what I'm asking.
You're correct.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
We're going to try to make it as obscure as possible and meet the conditions that are required.
Thank you,
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Davis. I appreciate that answer.
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone else wish to speak? Hank, do we have the next one?
Okay, we have Kevin. I am allowing you to talk as we speak.
I don't have any questions or comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. Should be one more, Hank.
That's town hall.
It's town hall. That's it.
That's it. Very good. Okay. If no one else to speak, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that if you have a comment you wish to make, you need to do it within the next 24 hours. Please send your email comments to townclerk@louisvillenc.net. That's townclerk@louisvillenc.net. If you're uncomfortable sending an email and wish to just drop off a written document or a written comment, you feel free to do that. You can come to town hall and we can arrange to have that given to our town clerk at that point. So you have two ways, but they must be done in the next 24 hours. With that, we'll close the public comment section of this public hearing. Council, any further discussion? We will have our vote on this, and I believe we set the date on that for Monday, June 15th. That'll be a 6 p.m. meeting, just as we will on our previous issue, our town budget. So council potentially may have some more discussion at that time. Anything else, council, before we move on? Great, thank you. Stacy, we'll go down to unfinished business, and that's our rezoning of Warren Park Drive.
Yes, the public hearing was held for this on June the 4th. It is a rezoning from RS 40 to IP. The property is along Louisville Clemens Road that adjoins Jack Warren Park. I did not receive any additional written comments for this. I do not know if Joyce did or not.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay, so we've not received any additional comments. Very good, council members. We will vote on this. Is there any other council discussion that we need to have?
I have a question for Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
Stacy, could you just speak to the rezoning staff report? I think there might be some confusion regarding public hearing. Under findings, the report indicates that there's no site plan, no specific use, and that if the property is later developed, the planning board and town council will be required to review and approve the plan.
Yeah, that is a little bit, let me clarify the process. For a general use rezoning, if a property gets a rezoned to IP, then any of the uses are allowed. If you look in the table printed uses, if there's a Z under that, then that is allowed by right. So if something is built there that's allowed by right, that is actually incorrect. It will not go back before the planning board. However, with the property being owned by town council, a lot of us have had deliberations about a site plan or what's going to go there, that sort of thing. But the actual safety nets that a project that is allowed by right goes through, it does not have to go through a site plan review for technical compliance through the planning board and town council, but it does have to go through me as staff, and it also goes through zoning plans examiners that are employed by the city of Winston. We contract with them to help us do review, but prior to erosion and control permits, prior to any building permits, sign permits, all of those things, it does have to go through a zoning compliance to ensure that the site plan meets all of the requirements of our non-residential standards that are laid out in our Unified Development Ordinance. So the site plan does not actually go before the planning board and the town council as a case like for planning board review or town council review for compliance. But being that it is owned by the town, the town council does have input in that. It's not a formal process that it would have to go through, being that it is a use by right. But if, again, since it's owned by the town in those instances, then yes, it would. Now, say for instance, it's a property that's not owned by the town. At that point, then it would just go through myself as staff review and then zoning plans examiner review prior to permitting. Does that make sense, Jean Marie, or answer your question in a large roundabout way?
I'll answer your answer this way. So for what the findings say, so as this is your staff report, does that need to be amended?
It can be, yeah, it can be.
Or should it be, is what I'm asking.
Well, I mean, it's still technically true on some levels. It's just, maybe it needs to be clarified that it's not a formal process for technical review for compliance. It would not have to go through that if it is a use by right.
Correct. Okay. And the reason this is a general use zoning, the other option would have been the specialty use, which we've talked about. And that was selected because, can you speak to that, Mike, Hank?
Stace, do you want to take the first whack at it?
Well, I think with it being owned by the town and it has, even though and Bo can try to help me with this too, but even though it is a general use rezoning and by law, we have to look at all of the uses that are allowed in IP. It is known that is where the community center is going to go. It has been put out in public. So I think maybe that's why a general use rezoning was chosen instead of a special use.
Typically, a general use rezoning is requested when a site plan has not yet been prepared, and when there are potential timing issues related to that, or when an applicant wants to reserve the right to put any and all uses that are on there. In some cases, can't speak to this particular instance, but council probably already knows. But in a situation where someone wants to reserve all the possible uses that are allowed under that particular zoning classification, then in that event, a developer may request a general use rezoning, which is what you have before you tonight. So that's not uncommon. We don't see as much of that in Louisville. But again, where we do see that is in situations such as normal subdivisions and conventional subdivision. There, we do have a site plan review process, but it's not part of the zoning process. So it's conceivable to have a general use residential zoning, and there are uses other than residences allowed in residential zoning. And so when someone asks for a general use rezoning, that's what the backup is on that.
Let me just real quick cliff notes. Cliff notes are zoned IP general, but the uses are limited to those uses that would be for public purposes. We can't put a shopping center in there. We can't put a Walmart in there. We can't put a number of other uses that don't have specific public benefit. One of the reasons why we ask for the general use zoning was that at some point in the future, the town may want to enter into a public-private partnership with another entity who may want to put a facility in there that would be for public use. So that's kind of a general answer to why we didn't make it restricted just to that one use.
And Mayor, you may also want to add features to the site. The town may wish to add of its own volition, features to the site that are not presently contemplated.
Exactly.
And so that is certainly something that may be allowed, and rather than having to come back for a site plan review process, the town would simply still have to be in compliance with all requirements of any particular development as it is now to comply. So that's another reason why that may happen as well.
Very good. That's probably more answer than you wanted, Jean Marie.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions for staff? Any other discussion? Very good. With that, we'll entertain a motion to,
Move approval of ordinance 2020-026.
I'll second.
Dr. Sadler makes the motion.
Melissa Hunt, second.
Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Nope. I'm sorry, Mayor. Mr. Mayor, sir, you may want to reconsider the procedure.
And I'm back with you. Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Nay.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Welch. Ms. Welch, I think you may be muted.
Good.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. The mayor votes aye. That is a 6-1 with Ms. Foster voting in opposition. Okay. Pam, we're down to new business.
Okay, next we have ordinance or resolution 2020-046. This is to set Thursday, July the 16th, 2020 at 6 p.m. as the public hearing date for the debt issuance on the new community center.
Any questions? We did have a pretty extensive discussion on this prior to setting the public hearing. Any questions from Ms. Orell?
Yeah, I want to clarify the date again.
The date is July 16th.
Okay.
Pam, do you want to talk about your dates?
I apologize. I don't have the actual, I got briefing agenda minutes anyhow, our agenda.
And walk us through the process on that. I think we talked about the 24-hour notice and the subsequent date that we'll have to have a meeting to have the vote. You want to take a second on that? You want me to do it?
I can do it if you want me to.
Please.
Okay, the public hearing for the debt issuance will be on July 16th on Thursday. Then we'll need to wait 24 hours for comments before council will meet again on Monday, July the 20th, where you will approve a resolution making necessary findings and authorizing the debt contract with the bank. Then we will need to meet again, or council will need to meet again to actually approve the minutes of the public hearing and the meeting on that Monday. The reason we need to do that, we're going to have our application submitted to LGC or the Local Government Commission by August 1st. And with our application, we need to submit approved and certified minutes. So that's why we need council to meet again to approve those minutes. So we've scheduled July the 23rd for that date for you to meet again to approve the minutes. And then, like I said, we will submit the application to LGC at the very latest by August 1st. And then LGC will meet on September 1st to consider our debt issuance.
Any questions for Pam?
Just as a matter of curiosity, we're meeting on July 2nd and 9, right?
That's correct.
And the reason for pushing this back to the 16th is?
When the bank gives us a quote for an interest rate and a borrowing amount, it's only good for 60 days before we close. So to meet the window of time, we had to push the public hearing further out.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion to set the public hearing.
So moved.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion.
Second.
Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. You know, maybe if we put like electrodes or something up here, when it comes to that point, you give me a good shot and I'll work through this one. Let's go through the roll call. Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mayor's aye also. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Hank, you've got a number of items following this, so we'll just turn it over to you. I believe we're voting on each one of them now.
Well, unfortunately, all these resolutions need to wait until we have the budget adopted. So we'll need to have those weighted and continued on into Monday's meeting.
Very good. So,
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Can we not go ahead and go through this and vote even on all of this with each motion being made that these resolutions come into effect after the budget is approved? I mean, I'm thinking of weather and haymaking come Monday. All right. And, I mean, we've spent an hour or more tonight. Let's go ahead and continue if we can and do it contingently. What do you think, Bo?
You
Can we
mean
do something like
contingency
that?
approval?
Yeah, the resolutions could each be adopted contingent upon approval of the budget.
Right. But we do the voice votes that we need to tonight, which takes up time to be recorded and everything. But go ahead and do that. And then basically have one motion to approve everything that we're getting ready to look at.
Well, as I said, if you make each of these motions contingent upon the budget approval, when you vote on the budget, that'll enact all the resolutions.
so let's do that. Let's those of us making motions on this, just make motions to approve or not approve, but hopefully it'll be to approve the contracts contingent upon approval of the budget. Does that make sense?
That's what I was getting at. Thank you.
Okay. And I will go through them.
Thank
Thank
Very
you.
good, Hank.
Okay.
Go ahead.
First is Resolution 2020-034, authorizing a contract for 3 years with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office.
Council, we were briefed on this. We have that information. Any questions for Hank? We'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve Resolution 2020-034 contingent upon the approval of the budget for the next fiscal year.
Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Smith makes a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please. Mr. Smitherman.
Good job.
I approve.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye. That is unanimous. Hank, the next one, please.
All right, consideration of Resolution 2020-035, awarding a contract for the placement of Christmas decorations to Elite Landscape Service and Nursery Incorporated of Pofftown in an amount not to exceed $11,863.
Any questions for the manager? We'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
Looks like Ms. Hunt makes the motion. Ms. Foster makes the second.
Is that with the same contingency, Ms. Hunt?
Same contingency, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming we're making a motion. If you make the motion, you're making a motion to approve with the contingency on approval of the budget.
Mhm.
Very good. Yes, Ms. Walker.
I made that notation, so if you don't have to, Bo, they don't have to say that.
Okay, you good?
Gotcha.
If someone, I guess the default will be that it'll be contingent. If you wish to do something other than that, make that in your motion.
Right.
Ms. Foster, you have your hand up. I don't know if you're frozen in time or.
I must be frozen in time.
Okay, very good. Once again, Ms. Hunt made the motion. Ms. Foster made the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. That's unanimous. Hank, next one, please.
Okay, next is Resolution 2020-036, awarding contract to Sir Speedy to print 6 newsletters for the town in an amount not to exceed $12,915.
Any questions for the manager?
I had a question, and I believe we answered it last time, but that was vetted out, correct, Hank? That was when.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Move for approval.
I think that was Mrs. Welch.
Yes.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Franklin makes a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mayor, Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next resolution, Hank, please.
Resolution 2020-038, awarding a contract to Yards by Us for grounds maintenance for areas and an amounts described in the contract incorporated by reference into this resolution.
Any questions for Hank? Not, will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion.
Second.
Dr. Sadler makes a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Nay.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor is aye. The motion carries 6-1 with Mr. Smitherman in opposition. Hank, the next one, please.
Yes, Resolution 2020-040, authorizing a contract for Town Hall janitorial services to executive cleaning services in an amount not to exceed $7,800.
Any question for our manager? Not, will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Smitherman makes the motion.
Second.
Was that Mrs. Hunt?
Foster.
Ms. Foster.
Ms. Foster, thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That's unanimous. Next item, Hank.
Resolution 2020-041, authorizing the contract for Jack Warren Park, Shalford Square, Town Hall Annex, and G. Galloway Reynolds Community Center janitorial services to executive cleaning services in an amount not to exceed $14,544.
Any questions for the manager? Will entertain a motion.
Move approval of Resolution 2020-041.
Dr. Sadler makes the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Franklin makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
I think we got you then there. Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That's unanimous. Next item, Hank.
Resolution 2020-042, authorizing a 3-year contract for neighborhood street sweeping in a fixed amount not to exceed $23,746 for those locations and periods as noted in the contract.
Any questions for the manager?
I have a question. Quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Fixed amount versus other places you don't say fixed amount. What's the difference?
Well, this is a little bit of a mix. Ryan, you want to address that?
He's muted.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. So close.
Okay.
Just anyone.
I can give you the information that Ryan gave to me if he can find him.
That's fine. Just a
Okay,
bit.
go ahead.
The information was for the neighborhoods. Some had to be swept twice a year. Others had to be swept 3 times a year. So this was the annual amount. And I believe in the minutes that I did, I identified each neighborhood, whether they were twice a year or 3 times a year. Mm-hmm. And so it's a 3-year contract, but this is the amount that you would be paying for each year, and it doesn't change.
Right. In all of the neighborhoods, the neighborhoods are named individually, and not all get swept the same amounts per year.
Right.
And if I believe correctly, when we had briefing, I asked Ryan, and he said this includes getting Shalford Road swept after the Christmas parade.
That is correct.
That's
Yes.
what I was thinking.
It was just the term fixed that threw me. So it was just the term fixed that I see here that I didn't see elsewhere. So,
yeah.
Okay.
It just depends on how they sent us the contract or how we got the contract.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ryan's back too, Jim Murray.
Oh,
yeah. We don't need
Perfect
you.
timing, Ryan. We're done. Unless you've got something to add.
I'm sure you'll agree with that
Answer,
explanation that
Ryan,
was
just,
given by a number of people.
I have
Check your head up and down. You're good.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
think we're good.
Yes.
Very good. Any additional questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Ms. Foster makes the motion.
Oh, Ms. Welch.
I think
Ms.
we
Welch.
had Jane
Ms. Welch makes the motion. You guys are just lighting up on me all over the place. Ms. Welch makes the motion.
Melissa Hunt, second.
Ms. Hunt makes the second. Thank you, Melissa.
Good, Melissa.
Any further discussion? Very good. Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor's aye also. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Two more, Mr. Manager.
Okay. Resolution 2020-043, authorizing a 3-year contract for en masse notifications by Louisville Connect to residents for a fixed amount not to exceed $5,955 as specified in the attached contract.
Jean Marie Foster makes a motion.
Any questions for the manager?
I have a question, please. Hey,
Yes, ma'am.
does that include phone calls that are made?
Yes.
Sorry. Oh, all right. And what else does that include in mass?
Well, the system will text you if you have given it a cell phone number, and it will email you if you've given it an email address.
Okay. All right.
Any
That
other
answers it.
questions? Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Foster makes the motion.
All right, Jennifer.
I'll second it.
Mr. Franklin makes the second. Any additional discussion? Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That is unanimous. Last one, Hank.
Okay, resolution 2020-044, awarding contract for maintenance of town shrubs, trees, and flower beds for an amount not to exceed $63,990, and that I believe is for Ecologic of Winston-Salem.
It is ecological.
Any questions for the manager?
I do have a quick one, and the period of that is 1 year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Motion.
Ms. Foster makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Smitherman makes a second. Any further discussion? Very good. Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
You're
Aye.
muted.
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That is unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, we did move through these rather quickly, and Mr. Franklin, thank you for your suggestion. Yes, Ms. Foster?
There's one more K that was added.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about that in a second because that's a new item that's been added. It seems, folks, like we moved through this very quickly. Mr. Franklin, thank you for suggestion to be able to do the forward-looking motions. But we do take these and have extensive discussions in our briefings. And our briefing is the first Thursday of every month. That time, council members are able to ask questions, ask for more information. And then when it comes before the council on our regular meeting, council members have already been aware of the item and have deliberated and made some determinations if they're ready to vote on it or ask additional questions. So just because we move through them quickly doesn't mean we haven't had the proper, they haven't had the proper consideration.
Right.
Okay, Ms. Foster, did you were waiting on the next item, right?
Yeah, but thank you for that. That's helpful, Mike.
Okay.
I do have a question though.
Yes, sir.
Before we get to the next one. Had we already approved resolutions 037 and 039 at a different time? I just don't recall.
They're earlier in the agenda.
Okay.
You looking at the numbering there?
Yes.
Number, I think in the let's see.
Yeah, the first one, it was the first resolution was the acceptance and approval of monthly financials for 10 months ending April 30th.
The 037?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So they're out of order then?
Yes.
Okay.
Although the order is whenever they bring it to me, I write it.
Oh,
So,
I see.
it just so happens that all the resolutions or most of the resolutions for the contracts were given to me at one time, but the other two that you were thinking were out of order came to me at a different time.
Very
Okay.
good. Hank, we have some air conditioner problems.
Yes. We have an air condition that I believe the unit is approximately 20 years old. The compressor is 10 years old. We have some, I'm not sure what it is. It's a R22 coolant that is being phased out. So the entire unit is in need of replacing. We had previously replaced the upstairs. We are now replacing the downstairs. So the amount of money that we have in front of you and Ms. Arell is going to give us the price for it for the budget amendment is to take care of replacing the entire unit downstairs in the annex.
When you say downstairs, you mean there are 3 levels. So
There's
the
2
lower-
levels, upstairs and downstairs.
It's the annex, Jean Marie.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
So I'm sorry, what did you say about the availability of the refrigerant?
It's being phased out. It's an old refrigerant.
And when was the upstairs replaced?
It's probably been within the last year, hasn't it, Pam?
It was a few months ago.
This is not primarily the refrigerant problem, right? It's a bigger problem. Is that what you're saying?
The entire, we can't do a part of it because of the refrigerant issue. So we're having to do both inside and outside the building on the downstairs.
Okay.
Air handlers and the outside unit.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. But I know that refrigerant R22 is still pretty available, but you were right, they are moving away from it.
Yet, Ken, the compressor itself has failed. It's gone bad. So that's the primary reason we're getting rid of it.
Okay.
In our proposed budget that we haven't adopted yet, did not we have some money in there for the HVAC for the annex? Or
We
there
had
was
money for
something-
maintenance contracts.
Okay, all right. I knew there was something that was in there, and I just wanted to inquire about that.
Yes,
So
we do
thank
carry
you.
maintenance contracts on all facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And I'm guessing because Pam hasn't offered up a budget amendment, you have enough in the contingency to cover this, and it's under 10,000?
No, Pam's going to give you the amount right now. I just don't have it in front of me.
Okay, very good. Okay,
Go for it.
yeah, any questions for Hank on the replacement or Ryan on the replacement needs? Okay, Mr. Rell, give us the budget amendment.
Okay, we are going to ask you to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $6,045 to replace the downstairs air conditioning unit at the annex.
And for the record, the ordinance number is 2020029.
Any other questions, council members?
What was the upstairs? Do you recall, Pam?
If you give me a moment, I will look that up.
And who's the vendor?
I mean, we can certainly get that for you on Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the vendor too, please.
It's Professional Air Systems.
Any additional questions? Very good. We'll entertain a motion on the budget resolution.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Smith makes the motion.
I'll
make the second. I definitely want to keep our deputies cool.
Yeah.
Agree.
Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor also votes aye. That is unanimous. Hank, you have some events updates for us.
Well, normally I'd be talking about all the great things happening, but I will say that on Friday, July 3rd, town offices will be closed in recognition of Independence Day. And that's it.
Hank, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is the food festival, that's not happening, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right, and that does bring us to our Independence Day celebration discussion. Last week, I reported to this group that with consideration of how things are currently and the situation that we expect in the future, It does not look very good that we could end up pulling off the Independence Day event. And I believe we're going to end up having the continued discussion this evening on that. And that's where we are.
Very good. Hank, will you report out the items that we took action on at our briefing?
Well, I think were we going to go ahead and talk about the Independence Day celebration?
Sure, if you want to. I think that's great.
Okay. It's my opinion that given this current situation and that of the future that the July 3rd and 4th weekend will encompass, we're not going to be in a position to be able to pull off this celebration event. Our events normally have brought thousands of people, and even without the fireworks display as we've had in the past, we could normally expect more than an ample amount of people to attend such an event. With the regulations for mass gatherings and the current state of where we are with the pandemic, it does not look possible to carry off this event at this time.
Okay, that's obviously unfortunate.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. And I guess let's. I know it's been a big event for Louisville, and one of the ones that I know I particularly enjoy seeing everybody. Okay, Mr. Manager, let's go again back through and if you recap, please, our approvals that we did at briefing in our action meeting last week.
All right. We had 4 items covered last week. First is ordinance 2020-025, amending the budget ordinance 2019001 in an amount of $3,860 to contract with KDT Grading Incorporated to abandon 2 wells at 312 Louisville Vienna Road. We approved ordinance 2020-027, amending budget ordinance 2019001 in the amount of $200,000 to transfer from the general fund to the Gateway Project Capital Projects Fund for design and right-of-way purchase. Third, we approved resolution 2020045, awarding a contract to Spectrum Enterprise Services for internet, managed Wi-Fi, and telephone services for the new community center. And then lastly, approval to move forward with the recombination of Jack Warren Park property and the property at 7632 Warren Park Drive.
Any questions for Hank? Any comments? Mr. Howe, you lit up? Did you?
I wanted to say that has been accomplished. The recombination deed was executed and has been recorded.
Very good. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, these were items that required our action last Thursday at our briefing meeting. We do report them out at our regular meetings so that you know what we did and how your money was spent in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, this takes us down to the final opportunity for you to share your thoughts with the council. If you would like, please, Mr. Franklin.
Yes. Do we need to set? Do we need to set the tentative agenda for our regular meeting for next week, or for the meeting next week, before we close out this one? I guess what are we going to do Monday? What do we have before us on Monday? Let's discuss that.
Mrs. Walker, you are our clerk. We do not have an agenda to approve for next Monday, but I believe the only item requiring our consideration is our vote.
2 items.
Two items, our vote on Longwood and our vote on the budget.
That's correct. Oh, and the minutes from the 14th that were moved forward.
That's important. Thank you.
We're continuing this meeting, or are we adjourning it?
This meeting.
No.
We will recess this meeting.
I mean, recess it, not adjourn. Okay. So
correct.
The agenda carries forward, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I believe it would. So I guess maybe we don't need to adopt it, or don't need to have a new agenda. We just go back and review this one because the items are listed there. That makes sense. Thank you, Dr. Sadler.
Mike, excuse me, Mayor. The reason I'm questioning right here is I would like for us Monday to, after the budget has been passed officially, reaffirm all these resolutions we just approved as a council. I don't know if it's necessary. Bo, you can chime in, but I would just like, and that would also open up an opportunity if anybody had, wanted to change anything. I would think since the budget was not in place right now.
You certainly could do that, and could be by a simple motion to reaffirm all of the resolutions for contracts that were passed tonight.
That's basically what I'm asking for, that we do that Monday night.
I'm sure
I
clerk
will
will make
list
a
them.
note of that.
I can list them for you. Not a
Very
problem.
good. We will just do that in one motion, Ms. Walker. We won't go through
Yeah.
and reaffirm every one of them.
Right, yeah, let's do it in one and make it one resolution to cite, if you will, as a reaffirmation.
Very good.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. We're at the last opportunity this evening for those folks who are tuning in or listening to make a comment. Hank, do we have anybody who's still with us?
We have one person, Miss Susan Thomas. Miss Thomas,
Very good.
I'm going to unmute you and allow you to speak. And she left immediately.
Okay, very good. We didn't mean to scare you away, Mrs. Thomas. We love to have you as part of our meeting. There's nobody left to speak, I'm assuming.
That's right.
Very good. With that, we will close the final public comment section. Council members.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Could we, since we're not doing any function for the 4th of July, could we air video of last year's fireworks on Channel 6 on the 4th, just as say that we're doing something?
That's an interesting question, Mr. Smitherman. And that's
I don't know that
certainly
it was recorded.
Do we have any recordings at all of that event?
I believe I put the last 1 minute of the fireworks on our Facebook page, but that's the only recording I'm aware of.
Okay.
Well, maybe if we could just do a message and then end it with that minute, or, you know, I don't know, maybe we could reach out on Facebook between now and then and see if anyone has a full recollection of it that they would be willing to share with us.
Hank, logistically, how would we handle putting that on TV6?
Well, if we could find the video, we could go ahead and take care of the formatting for the video, similar to how we take care of town council playback on Channel 6. So I think it would be possible to do so. I'm not sure of the length. The only thing that I know we have is about the last 1 minute of the show, which is pretty much the grand finale.
Mr. Smith, I like your idea. Why don't we just record a message and end it with the fireworks, that 1 minute.
Exactly.
And when you say record a message, what kind of?
You and I will come up with something.
Okay. Got it.
And I mean, we may invite every council member to come in and say, Happy 4th of July. And looking at faces, maybe not.
It would be fine with me.
Okay.
It'd be fine with me.
Yeah, fine with me.
Good. To be determined. To be determined. We'll get back with you guys on that. Any other comments, ladies and gentlemen, this evening?
Yes, I did. I have a comment, please, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
This is something asked about before, and it has to do with a report from our deputies about what has been happening in the last month, or what I think have been given, if I'm correct, Hank, a quarterly report.
Yes, ma'am.
From
They come out monthly.
Pardon?
They come out monthly.
Coming out monthly. Yeah, I just find that hasn't felt satisfactory, mainly because I'd like for the public to be able to have a chance to see what is going on in the community in a public forum. And in my past experience on council, we did have a deputy that would come to our council meeting and would say what type of, say, break-ins we've had, where we're having problems, where we're not, maybe giving a safety suggestion, but just to have a feeling of what is happening in our community police-wise. Community policing, for example, how many speeding tickets? Do we have a lot of drunk drivers? Do we have much domestic disturbance? I just find that I think the public would like to know a little more about what's going on in our town as far as policing. I'd like to hear what the other council members feel about having that report once a month at a regular council meeting from one of our deputies.
I would be
Council
fine
members?
with that. It would be in line with what we've done in the past, as you mentioned, so I'd be fine with it.
Jane, would you want to do that monthly or do it quarterly?
Yeah, was there a reason it changed?
I don't know, because that was something we used to do every month.
I think monthly would be appropriate. And I'm also in favor of that. And then, yeah.
The only thing that I'm uncertain of is the availability of a deputy for that time. It would have to be something that would be arranged through Sergeant Stringer.
Is
And
there a
if they-
report that can be
Oh, excuse
provided
me.
to us? I'm sorry, Jane.
Excuse me, Melissa. He wouldn't have to be present then if they weren't available, but could have a written report that could be read and kind of highlight what has been happening in the last month.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation as well, is if they could not be present, that we could read written report.
Yeah,
Hank, let's get with PJ and see how logistically we might be able to make that happen.
Okay. Have we heard enough from all the council again? I think we have, haven't we?
Yeah. If you were to have an executive summary like Jane's suggesting when they're absent, then you could also put that online where people could get access to it. I mean, you could review it at the meeting as well, but have it available online.
Okay. I don't know. I'll have to look at it, Councilman Sadler, just to see how it lends itself to executive summary. You guys have seen it. It's pretty much just given to us as a list. So I'll talk with PJ about pulling things out and giving you the highlights, if nothing else.
Okay, quick question. Thank you, Jane. I agree. I think it's a great idea. And Hank, public safety, do they get a report like that as part of their meeting process? Is there already
They get it every month.
Okay.
And they also, when they meet, they will have someone from the sheriff's office in our deputies contingent, along with the fire departments that attend their meetings and be prepared to ask questions and respond to anything of the same subject matter.
Great. Okay. Yeah. So that percolating up here, that would be helpful. Thanks, Jane.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Council members, any other comments?
For
Hank,
me,
I'm sorry, Melissa, go ahead.
sure. That kind of brought to mind the planning document. Would that be reported on monthly as well, or is that going to be presented to us underneath manager's report moving forward? Where are we at on that discussion or decision making?
I can speak to that, or take a stab. So I remember I asked for the minutes to be for the 14th of May to be pushed to Monday, and part of that was me going and digging in to say what was said by whom, how, and when. What my understanding is that this group at the last meeting on the 4th of June said, yeah, it looks good. We want to have this on a regular basis. What was not as clear in listening to both of those meetings on May 14th and June 4th was exactly when. So it had been thrown out as being part of a regular meeting or a briefing or before a regular meeting or briefing. So that piece wasn't as clear when I re-listened to everything. So I think there's an opportunity to get clarity on what council would like and what staff thinks makes sense.
Well, from my perspective, I think that things are, because you're creating a timeline, I think, for project review or items that need to be completed or whatever. And so I think that those things that come up within a specific time frame would be the things I don't think we go over that whole list every time. I think you'd go over the things that are pertinent at that particular time to see where we are in accomplishing whatever they are. That'd be my take anyway.
And maybe including what's coming up next.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Foster, this felt to me in our discussion. I'm sorry, Ms. Hunt, go ahead.
Ken, would your perspective on that be that it be done during briefing or during our regular town council meeting?
I wouldn't have a preference, to be honest with you. I mean, I think briefing is the appropriate time to do it. I think if there was something, major significance, that we needed to address. And obviously, you know, we could spend time within the council meeting, but since we're doing this, as long as we're in this format, public has ready access to everything we're doing whenever we do it. So briefings, when we originally planned briefings, it was for things like that, things we're going to get briefed on, right?
Yep.
So
let me make sure I'm asking a question that I need to. Jean Marie, our document that we went forward through was really kind of limited to the things council was juggling at the time, given the public hearings that needed to be taken care of, the process for the community center. So these were time things at that point that were just going to come to an end. So what are we talking about now for the future? Are we going to be talking about future events and future processes that then get picked up under the same format?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
And I'm tying this back to some of the original discussions, Melissa, back in January and February, which you recall, when we were saying we wanted to have some mechanism. I think Mike used the term workflow or a chart, so that we could all see all of the things that we've sort of committed to, whether it's Great Wagon Road, what are all the projects? I mean, Hank, you know all the various projects that are out there, and somehow having some sort of a master document that at any given time we can see who's doing what, when, and what's due by when, by whom, to hold ourselves accountable to the process and nothing slipping through the cracks.
So are we talking about work items that the council needs to be aware of to make sure the sequence of events that happens for council?
I'll speak to that was my understanding.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think, council?
Well, my concern, or what I was interested in, was to have that whole document to look at and really get a sense of it, but not necessarily address every item on it every month, just what was happening then and what was coming up maybe the next month, but really have the entire document for each council member to always be able to refer to and know how everything in context was working out.
So what we're talking about are things that come before council, like if we've got some evidentiary hearings coming, some residential subdivisions coming in, just a feel for where are they in the process, when are they going to get to you, what are the expectations, rezoning requests, things like that.
I mean, for me, Hank, it's, residents are asking about projects that are up and coming and what's going on here and what's going on there. And I think because we are in this fantastic modality of being able to release information publicly through Zoom, if we could just have a section of briefing or council meeting where we do talk, to Jane's point earlier, about what's happening in the town and then what's coming up. So that as they are moving throughout the town, they are able to see and know and be kind of abreast of those planning. I know Stacy Tolbert has alluded to this several times in the past in regards to resident education and transparency and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so that would be kind of my thoughts on what we're doing, is just continuing to keep people abreast of what's going on throughout the town. Currently, as they're seeing construction happening, and then what we've kind of got coming down the road, and that's my viewpoint of it.
Okay. I think probably we need to have some more discussion as to the breadth of what we'll be reporting, but I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I would think one thing to add to that, Melissa, that might be difficult in that is, once it leaves council, I don't necessarily know when they go get permits or when they're going to start grading, or what, I don't necessarily know those things.
Right.
Because it kind of from there, it just spiderwebs out to a lot of different agencies. There's a lot of different things that you're required to do, permits they're required to get. So I don't know how we would, I guess, kind of keep up with that.
That's part of my concern as well, because once it finishes with us, there might be construction going on and things going on that we don't really have anything to do with past a certain point, and we don't have a good spot where we can deliver and tell everyone, where it is and what is it. So I think it's probably not a good topic of discussion for this evening, but we just need to talk through what exactly we'll pick up and when we'll let it go.
And how about, maybe what we do too with Hank, Joyce, Stacy. We have another meeting next week and compare notes and edit the format that people have provided feedback to and see how that feels to this group of people as a start.
Right. We've got a lot of things, not to belabor the conversation. We have so many things that happen in town that we have absolutely nothing to do with. So I think there will be a little bit of an impossibility to pick up everything that somebody's going to come up with, but we can certainly work on this.
Right, but I will pitch one little thing from the planning board days is we talked about when we were putting forth something to the previous council after we had a retreat where we were talking about the interest the planning board certainly had in terms of enforcement and follow-up, so that there was someone that followed through with projects to check in and see if they were consistent with requirements, et cetera. So whether that's Stacy, et cetera, I hear that maybe there's an opportunity for us to figure out how to manage that going forward. More to come. Hank, you look like.
No, I just don't have anything else other to say about it at this point. Yeah.
Sounds to me like we need a little more, as we say, it needs to cook a little more and get a little more clarity about what we would, in what that would include. So Jimmy, I leave it in yours and staff's hands to flush it out a little bit more. I think that's probably a good place to leave it at this point. Everybody okay with that? Okay. Council members, any other comments? Hank, can you allow me to share my screen?
I think you already have that ability.
Oh, good. How exciting. Council members and ladies and gentlemen at home, we all have been impacted to a certain extent, certainly in our daily lives, and maybe even as deep as our considerations about our philosophies and our beliefs and our values. I'd like to take just a moment, a little opportunity here to summarize maybe the feelings that we've come up with as a council, maybe what we think about these types of things as a town. The last few months, and I put the text of this up on the screen so you can follow along with me, but the last few months have been unlike anything most of us have experienced in our lives. Right? We've seen how something that can be only detected through a microscope can become a pandemic and bring our strong nation to its knees. We've seen how a long simmering cauldron of racism and injustice can boil over in the streets all across the country. We've seen the worst and the best of who we are as a people. When several of our council members asked me if we were going to share any thoughts on this tonight, I was apprehensive. How could I, as one member of a council of 7, with as many perspectives and opinions as we have, produce a statement on which we all could agree? I've known some on this council, many of you, for nearly a quarter of a century, and some I'm just now getting to know. I'm just starting to learn who we are as a group and what we can become. Finding a way to speak with one voice is something that, to me, was a fraught-filled task. There's a lot I don't know about my fellow council members, but there are some things, fundamental principles, that I believe we share. First, throughout this pandemic, we've had the courage to make decisions that are in the best interest for the health and welfare of our residents. We share the pain of those who have lost family or friends, and we also share the concern about our residents who are out of work and how businesses in our community are weathering this economic storm. We are proud of our community policing deputies and all that they do, but we also share a belief that acts of injustice based on race or any other factor are unacceptable. We agree in the guarantees of the Bill of Rights that protect freedom of speech and the right of assembly to the extent that exercising these rights are peaceful and do not result in violence, injury, damage to property, or threaten the health and safety of others. We hold sacred the words in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal and that discrimination, prejudice, and racism have no place in a free society. Our community has a history of caring for one another. It's during times such as this that we demonstrate our humanity. We reaffirm our concern for the needs of others, and we remain resolved in our commitment to just and fair treatment for all. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. I hope I've adequately expressed many of the thoughts that the council members had and have shared with me. And if not, if there's nothing else to discuss, let me turn off my sharing and we'll move to a motion to adjourn.
Recess. Recess.
We're not adjourning, are we?
Yes, a motion to recess. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Motion to recess.
Motion to recess. Mr. Smitherman makes that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Foster, I believe that was you.
That was me.
Any further discussion? Very good. All those no, I'm just joking. Mr. Smitherman.
I approve.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye. Good night, everyone.
Mr. Franklin. I think you're still there, Mr. Franklin.
He must be muted.
I heard him.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Franklin, I have never known you to object to the recessing or adjournment of a meeting, so.
I'm not muted, that I can tell.
I heard him.
Now we go. Okay, we're back. Very good.
I heard
And
him.
the mayor also votes aye, and that's unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for tonight's council meeting. We always appreciate you tuning in to see the business of your town and the exercising of hopefully your wishes as the town council. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're adjourned.
No, we're
Recess.
Recess.
See you Monday night, everybody.
Recess.
Good night. Good night, Gracie.
Go on to recess.